What is up guys, Speed here, and today we are going to be going over a Slark replay. Yeah, even though this is probably my least favorite hero in Dota, my student recently played a Slark game where he actually had a very bad start, but managed to turn the game around and draw it out into a 60-minute game. Now I'm not saying you want to go 60 minutes against a Ember Spirit, a Timbersaw, and a Spectre Tricore, but what we will be talking about is how you can draw out games and come back when the enemy team has a lead, right? Where are the gaps in which you can come back when your team is behind? There's one main trend that I've noticed throughout coaching a lot of these 4K and below games, or 5K and below I should say, and that is when the enemy team is pushing, they do not farm, right? When the enemy team is going high ground, they spend a lot of time going as 5, not hitting any creeps. That is your main time to come back, and one of the biggest mistakes you can make as a safe laner, a mid laner, even as a support, is to defend as 5 heroes, right? What I recommend, and what I'm going to recommend throughout this video, for instance, for the Slark, which he ends up doing, is drawing out the game by split pushing. In this game in particular, the enemy team has very poor catch, right? They don't have like a Lion or really like an Orchid or Hex carrier. So as a result, it's quite an easy Slark game for him to just run around and do what he wants. He does a very good job drawing out the game. Now, I'm not going to say that all the examples here you're going to see are perfect displays of creep cutting, but what you need to do in ancient games, when the enemy team is pushing as a hard carry, as a mid, as an offlaner, is split push. I assure you, this is the way back into games, or the way to build a lead. So you notice the first play he makes, right? The enemy team finished a push. Where is he going? Into the bottom lane. This is him identifying that the enemy team cannot necessarily catch him easily. Also, they saw heroes top quite recently, so it is very logical for him to go bottom and spread out the map. Basically, whenever the enemy team is looking to push or set up for a push, you want to get to the opposite side of the map as fast as possible and start pushing in the waves. Now, if they start trying to chase you, you're going to have to act differently, which we'll be talking about. But in this case, he does a good job pushing in the lanes, and then once you push in the lanes, if the enemy team is not showing, you be patient and wait. Right, you be patient and wait, so you don't instantly keep going. You notice I think that's a new fresh sentry board of them trying to hunt the Slark. I believe it is. And, yep, it definitely is. And instead, he goes back and forces the enemy team to react. Let's look at the enemy team now. 3 heroes all running to the same lane. This is kind of a waste of time for them, right? Even their 2 cores are farming the same lane. This is kind of, it's just a waste, right? This is not that efficient. And this is a very common trend of these pub matches. So instead, what the Slark is going to do to leverage his advantage is play away from his teammates, as far away as possible. In this case, he's taking some jungle camps because the enemy team was trying to hunt him, but his overall goal should be to get out onto the map and start pushing in lanes again. Enemy team goes bottom, where does he go? Slightly inefficient path towards top, right? But the right idea, all the way to top. This is fine. Enemy team goes bottom, he runs top, constantly forcing in lanes, guaranteeing that the game is going to drag out. Right, not to say that they necessarily want it to drag out, but they're not in a position to end the game, so what you want to do is keep your farm up. Now, once again, this is very common. Whenever the enemy team is trying to take objectives, I mean, Roche is one where it's excusable for them to 5-man, because it's such a big objective, but they're not necessarily farming, right? I guess the Timber is. But the point is, they're not being particularly efficient, and this is your time to come back, right? Because they can't contest Roche, or at least they feel like they can't contest Roche. Typically how Slark wants to fight is spreading out fights, and the best way to do this is actually split pushing. So now they're trying to disengage. We're going to watch the fight a little bit, just kind of see what happens. But I believe he made the call to have them back, right? So he gets out, and now in my opinion, what he should have done, instead of even walking into his base, should have beelined at bottom. This is your time to run all the way bottom, right? The enemy team is going top, their lanes are shoved in, right? Lane mid, lane top, lane bottom. This means they can't push, right? Creeps equals the ability to push. So what he should have done is either run mid and push this in, because it's the most clear route for them to get creeps into the base. That's probably the best way to cut. And then to run all the way to bottom. Either way, he should have used that downtime where the enemy team was chasing his team to get to one of the side lanes or the mid lane and start pushing in. So he recognizes it a little bit late, but he recognizes it, the necessity to get to the side lanes and start pushing it in, which he does. Manages to cut bottom, and after that, he's going to go push in mid. Not a bad play. Maybe could have kept pushing in bottom, but this is totally fine. Wouldn't say this is bad. After he pushes in mid, there's no wave to farm, so he naturally just farms his surrounding camps. Very, very efficient, right? He's slowly catching up to this Spectre, right? And that is what you need to do, right, to keep your team in the game. If he's turtling in his base, they're going to fall behind, come into a net worth disadvantage, and ultimately lose the game. Enemy team goes top. We're just going to keep looking at this. Keep looking at the map. This is just so important. Enemy team goes top, he goes bottom, shoves in the lane, right, keeping his farm up constantly. Picks up bounty runes, gets a DD. Now, a DD is a good call on Slark to maybe start looking for kills. But he goes and cuts the mid wave. I'm cool with this too. It prevents the enemy team from directly pushing in mid if the top wave is cleared. So overall, it's good prep for the eventual top push, which they go for. And you notice top push happening, enemy team, all of them not farming, right? They're just, maybe they were farming before it, but the point is, now they're not farming. So at this point, he has a DD, so he maybe wants to look to fight. It's understandable. Doesn't necessarily get to use it, but he's going to go for a wrap. I think he maybe could have just tried to cut the wave if he didn't feel like they could fight, but it seems like he's in a position to fight, or that was his idea, which is fine. At some point, you can take a fight. Really big CM ult, and they're able to clean them up, right? And this is optimal, right? This is just really, really optimal. You push in lanes, you keep your farm up, and then you either continue to split push if your team strictly wants to just defend high ground and stall, or you come back and hit them with a big old flank. And at this point, now they have a 4k net worth lead, right? One clean fight, in addition with the split pushing, and you're able to come back into this game, or at least start pushing an advantage, even though they have something like a Spectre, right? This is what he has to do to stay in this game. So, but instead of immediately just going mid and pushing with his team, which you could argue is okay here, right? Maybe they could get a tier 3, but they're going to respawn, right? There's an Ember Spirit with a Daedalus Battle Fury who's going to cut their waves. In fact, he already did cut their wave. So the push is not that effective. Now, you could definitely debate me, right? Is this worth it or not? For me, I would say yes, right? Maybe at this point, now that they even got an Ember Spirit pick off, it's good that he runs mid, which he actually identifies. That's solid after he cuts this bottom wave. But you notice this net worth lead is increasing very rapidly, pushing him all the way to 3k above even the Spectre. And this is because he's not directly pushing with his team. Here, I think he should be hitting the tower. This is probably a little bit too long. He should at least help them with this tier 3 and maybe take a range Rax at the least. So at this point, maybe should have helped them out. But regardless, no matter what happens of this play, what is he setting himself up for? Okay, like, you don't know exactly how this game's going to go down. I'm not saying every play is made in this game is optimal. This isn't about an ancient game. But what is optimal about this is that he's going to be able to scale and fight in the end, right? I'm not saying this is the perfect play, but what I do recommend is in pubs, setting yourself up to be able to scale no matter what it takes. So in this situation, it's either split pushing when your team wants to push, it's not immediately defending high ground, it's split pushing waves. Basically, any action you can take that isn't turtling is much better than turtling itself, right? Turtling is how you fall behind and lose these games, right? Trying to instantly react to pushes is how you fall behind, especially as a core within games like this. So instead, he's now able to build a 8k net worth lead, a 4k net worth lead on the Spectre, which is what you need to be able to carry these games, especially at the later stages, right? I typically like to only teach the laning stage, or at least start with the laning stage, focus on it, because it's the most linear, it's the easiest to learn because it's the least amount of changes. But if I had to give one tip to every player in Dota for the mid game into late game, it's to split push and continue farming when everyone else is static or looking for the next big fight. Why? Because that allows the next big fight to be much easier. And while this might seem self-explanatory, if you watch your own replay, you'll notice how much downtime you actually have, especially within the mid game, when you're either just not farming or just spending way too much time worrying about what the enemy team is doing and not either pushing your limits or increasing your net worth lead. So now that the enemy team is going bottom lane, he's going to try to cut the wave. He was a little bit late. I mean, the idea there is right. He's going to cut the lane so that they can't push or that they spread out. Right, this has a dual effect, and this is going to be my last point of the video. Split pushing has a dual effect. Not only does it keep your farm up, but it splits the enemy team up. And what happens when the enemy team splits up? You get pickoffs, and you delay the game. And that is what you want, right? Especially for a hero like Slark. What this will allow him to do, or even a hero like Animage, PA, any of the notable split pushers, Jug, what you can do that is extremely effective, and you'll see a lot of pro players do. Specifically, Ana is one of the main ones that I see do this frequently due to OG's very, like, 4 protect 1 playstyle. I guess they're not exactly 4 protect 1, but due to their hard carries that they often have. You'll see Ana split push the waves, and then after they split push the waves, or he split pushes the waves, he creates a number advantage by forcing TPs, and then goes to take the fight, right? That is how you build a number advantage, and that is the side benefit of split pushing that isn't necessarily as obvious as keeping your farm up, or at least forcing backdoor protection. So thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed, please do like and subscribe to help the channel grow. If you learned anything about Dota at all, leave a comment down below about what's interesting or different about this video to you. And if you feel like you learned this already before, I highly recommend, I suggest to you, going and checking out one of your own pubs, as we see a great BKB TP from the Slark. You go and check out one of your own pubs and find that all the time and the downtime you spend, especially if you're a mid or a carry player. But remember, support and offlane players, this applies to you too. You can split push when the enemy team is pushing as well to keep your farm up. It is totally fine, in my opinion, if your cores aren't going to do it. But look for all the downtime where you're just turtling and wasting time when you could at least be trying to get outside the base. I recommend you try to get outside the base, even if you think it might get you killed. This will help you learn the game, push your limits, and allow you to come back in the games that seem near impossible. So go pick Slark in your next pub. Maybe try to cut some waves. Actually, don't. I really think this hero is still mediocre, but it got some buffs, even though it got nerfed in 7.22b. So maybe try it out, cut some waves, and enjoy your game. See ya. Hey guys, before I leave you, I just want to remind you that over at GameLeap.com, you can check out guides just like this one, made by top tier pros. It will help you gain MMR faster, it will help you learn the game much more in depth, and overall, just increase the experience of your Dota gameplay as you will crush your opponents simply by knowing more than them.